Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us in Steps of Ransomware Attack. My name is Andres Ruz. I'm the Director of Information Security for Meriplex, and I'm very happy today because we have Jon Villanti, who is the Vice President and Information Security Officer for Alliance Bank. Hey, Jon, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, good afternoon. Having a great afternoon, rainy Houston day.
Thank you so much for helping me with this video. We're looking forward to have Jon in these videos. He's a great guy, very knowledgeable in the cybersecurity area. Okay, so I don't know if you remember this slide from our previous conversation, but we feel it's a good place to start so we can understand and we get deep in how ransomware work. So, and again, this is an example using a phishing email. There's other variables, but we're going to use this one as example. Is you guys, so someone will receive an email with a phishing link or a phishing attachment. You will click the link. You will download some type of malware to your computer. That malware then will connect with a CSC infrastructure to download the key, and that key is going to, at the very end, encrypt your files, encrypt your hard drive. Now, what happens if you decided to pay, you will normally use some level of Bitcoin or some type of cryptocurrency. Normally it's Bitcoin today. And if sometimes this doesn't happen, you will get to deliver the private key for you to be able to unencrypt those files. This doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes happen. So keep this in mind when we went through the rest of the slides, because it will help you understand how we went through this presentation. So we're going to talk today a little bit about on the selection and operation of the ransomware, and something that is very important for you to understand is how the selection of victims happen. The first thing to say is that these guys are taking advantage of still a lot of low-hanging fruit all over the place. This is our incorrect ports open to the public, not patch systems. Again, the phishing kind of example where people clicks without thinking. So those are kind of the very low-hanging fruits. And then you have the target attacks. The target attacks are a little more sophisticated. Spear phishing, people that you are targeting is very specifically, and people that is behind this, that they have all the time and patience that they can wait, and they have very sophisticated ways of attacking your organization.
Yeah, Andy, and if I'm going to be engaged in a targeted attack involving ransomware, as an adversary, I want money. And so I'm picking people that, A, have valuable data that they want to protect and that it might be embarrassing to them if they lose it. And I also want to make sure they have the ability to pay. At the end of the day, I'm in this to make money. And now that the adversary has determined where they're going to aim these cyber bullets at, they're going to go through kind of a selection of exploit tools or initial access type of tools. In many cases, there is no real exploitation that's required. They're going to phish a user with a malicious link or with a weaponized attachment, macro-enabled Word document, Excel, spreadsheet. But what's really interesting is the shift in attacker tactics to looking at general exposures and general vulnerabilities, exploiting known vulnerabilities. And now instead of just a simple compromise or a more traditional breach, they're just sending ransomware as the payload. So it's a lot of the same initial attacker steps, but when it comes to payload selection, they're throwing in the ransomware. And there's been some research done by Microsoft, and I've listed out the top 5 vulnerabilities that Microsoft has seen being leveraged by attackers to release ransomware. And we see, especially, you look at the Pulse VPN, you look at Citrix, the Citrix vulnerability. These are remote access solutions into an environment.
And if I don't remember wrong, all of them were critical in the CVBS score, and we have a lot of action items after this were found. So these were pretty much handled as emergency vulnerabilities, not in your traditional let's wait until next month kind of situation.
Exactly. And another thing we see with these new threat actors who are releasing ransomware into target environments, it's now interactive. They're not just releasing some sort of virus, worm, or Trojan and letting it run on its own. It's truly hands-on keyboard interactive attacks whereby they do get that initial access. They're going to engage in some internal reconnaissance, understand the lay of the land, possibly using tools like WMI, PowerShell, other living off the land techniques. They're going to engage in privilege escalation, really to unlock the power of those crypto APIs inside of the Windows operating system. They need to have a higher permission typically than the initial access that they're going to get. So privilege escalation is always part of that timeline of techniques and activities the attacker is going to use. And what I really want to say about this untrusted code piece is we get wrapped up a lot in the words that we use to talk about exploits. We've got virus, Trojan, worm, malware, ransomware. In my opinion, these are all just simple examples of untrusted code. And at the end of the day, what we have to do to keep our networks and our systems secure is stop the execution of untrusted code in the environment. I personally don't care what it's called. I just don't want untrusted code running on any of my machines.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you know, John, something that we also see is that when these people get in using any of this untrusted code or any of this methodology, normally they don't do anything until they understand the scope of where they can get. So we see this, you know, lateral move where they try to understand if they can attack all the network shares that computer has, or they can understand where the backups are, or where are the critical servers of that company. So you will see that there's going to be some level of reconnaissance than at the moment that, you know, the malware is implanted, that the payload is doing this effect. And you will not see any encryption, anything happen until they understand the scope, because they want to, you know, do this quickly, but they want to also get the best from the bucket whenever they are launching this type of attacks.
Yeah, and really what you just described was the adversary, in some cases, they know the terrain better than the company does, better than the admins do.
True.
And there's a great video on YouTube by Rob Joyce. At the time, he was the director of TAO, which was Tailored Access Operations inside of the NSA. And he essentially stood up on YouTube for 45 minutes and said, if you want to stop hackers like me and my teams, do these things. And that was one of the things that really stuck with me, is that these attackers know networks and systems in many cases better than the admins do. Yeah. Now, when it comes to the actual communication, so there's going to be, you know, we talk about the interactive nature of these attacks. They're going to be coming through the Tor network. It's called the Onion Router. It provides the attacker with a degree of anonymity. One of the interesting things, though, especially from a detection perspective, is the Tor exit nodes are typically well known. So you can go out there and find some lists that will point you towards known Tor exit nodes. Those are something, obviously, if you see traffic coming into your environment from them, that would be a real red flag for you to investigate. And when we talk about the command and control infrastructure, they could be coming from any place. They could have virtual private servers inside of a very common hosting company here in the United States, or they could truly be coming to you from wherever they sit. They're going to do whatever works, whatever takes the least amount of effort, least amount of energy, and least amount of money. So, but they do have a command and control infrastructure. They want to be able to continue interacting inside that target environment, like Andy talked about, understanding where they are at, get rid of all the backups, and totally have themselves spread through the organization before hitting that encryption button.
Yeah, and you know, and something that we were talking about, you know, with this type of communication is, and I learned this very recently, which I think is brilliant, is sometimes that IP or those IP as your more critical pieces of threat intel that you can have, because those IP can change, right? These people will use multiple different ways of communicating to your network. Now, you can learn so much from reserving that and not shut it down. So you understand the hashing that they're using, what is the key, what is the way that they're communicating. You know, there's a lot of threat intel that it will be good, it will be awesome. You have the choice to say, hey, let's not shut down this yet so we can understand how it works. Because I guarantee you, and John, I think that you will agree with me, that this can come from any place. If you shut down one, they will come from another 3 places now that the malware is implanted in your device. And
yeah, at that point, Andy, we always have to resist the whack-a-mole game that we play. And you raise a really good point. There's many indicators of compromise. There's many indicators of attack. The IP address is only one of them. And sometimes there's more valuable indicators contained in the payloads, file hashes of things that are crossing your boundaries that you can use to defend and protect yourself much better than simply blocking one IP.
Yep. Now, of course, as John was saying, the end of the communication is pretty much these guys wants to get the money and then position that ransom. So at the very end, you will get an encryption done in the systems or whatever the hacker was able to get. And at the very end, you will get that not very nice screen saying that you owe them some money. Okay, so let's talk about some takeaways for today. The first one is, and something that we say is, ransomware can target anyone, even this low-hanging fruit. This is not something that cannot happen to your organization because it's small. Be aware that we've seen attacks to any size, any vertical type of organization. Of course, the most sophisticated attacks are more oriented for different type of organizations, but you still are going to be least if you have long-hanging fruit in your environment that these guys can take advantage of. The second thing is, you don't think that this is stopped at the computer level. Again, we were talking about your network shares, we're talking about your servers, we're talking about your backups. The backups are primary target today. In the last 3 incident response that Meriplex have to act, the backups were the target. They were the primary target, and then we saw the ransomware on the rest of the devices.
And this, a lot of what we hear about ransomware is focused on recovery. So a lot of ransomware conversations center around your backups. How many backups should you have? Should they be on-prem? Should they be off-prem? So on and so forth. What I really want to highlight here is that it can be prevented. We talked about untrusted code. We don't want any untrusted code running in our environment. So simple things like training your users about the dangers of phishing, bad clicks on embedded URLs, weaponized file attachments, things like that, go a long way in preventing all sorts of untrusted code, to include ransomware. So literally getting ahead of the patching curve, staying on that patching curve, and having good user behavior goes a tremendous ways in the prevention of ransomware.
Totally. And that is a good help for us to, kind of prepare you for the next video, which is going to be a lot about prevention and detection. And with that, we would like to close for today. Thank you so much, Jon, for your participation in this video. Looking forward to do more videos with you, okay?
Thanks for having me,
in the future. And if you have any questions and you require any help, please feel free to reach us. Have a good day.